Welcome to Oh, the People Will Meet. My name is Stephanie Richardson, and I am so glad that you've joined us. I started this podcast because I meet people in craziest places, whether it's coffee shops, Chick-fil-A, kids' sporting events, through, whatever, through work or even on airplanes. I meet people, and I love hearing their stories. When I hear their stories, I feel so inspired. I feel so, I just feel so encouraged. And so I didn't want to just have those stories just for myself. I wanted to share those stories with you. And so I started this podcast because of that. And so today we have Ilana, and I'm so excited for you guys to hear her story. First off, I always start the podcast saying how I met you, how I met whoever the person is. And so I met you in a
that's yours now.
Yeah, I met you, kind of stalked you at a meeting for Beachbody, and it was a time when probably my body image was at a really low. I had gone to try to find, had supplements and tried to find all these different ways, healing my body, and just nothing was working. And I remember you sharing your story on stage, and just tears were just streaming down my face because of your story. And I think it was your story also because of what you've been through and that you were real. And so we're going to share a little bit about that. But I stopped you in the hallway, and I was like, please let me be in your test group, because right that time you were doing the test group, remember? And I basically stopped you, and I was like, please can I be in your test group? Please can I be in your test group? And
then you were.
I was. And so it was so much fun, and I got to know you through weekly Zoom calls where you would share that, and we were in the test group, and I lost 20 pounds, and we were talking today, and it wasn't so much the weight, but it's more just the fact that I have some freedom that I had before, and especially freedom from food, and I understand myself better, I understand my body better. And so, so that's about me, that's not about you. I want to hear kind of how you grew up and a little bit about your story.
Definitely, and I'm so glad you did it and that it worked and you're feeling good and look amazing, so that always makes me happy. Yeah, that was a while ago. It's amazing. I feel like there must be over 1 million pounds down from the program, and since then, it's really incredible.
That's crazy. I was just looking at one of your signs, and it said there was 1 million views of just the program.
Oh, and that was only
over a year. That's almost 2 years ago.
Right. No, thank goodness. And I hope it just keeps inspiring and affecting people in the way it's been able to affect you and so many others, and myself, because I wouldn't be able to be here today without it. So,
right.
I guess it kind of, my story starts, I grew up on the Upper West Side in Manhattan, New York City, 71st and Broadway, and my home was pretty chaotic. My siblings were much older, and my parents were divorced and busy and dating, and we had a multi-story home, and I'd find myself alone a lot. And I was very sociable when I was with friends, but I think I didn't know what to do a lot when I was alone. Mm-hmm. And I found a lot of comfort in the kitchen. Mm-hmm. That kitchen was my mainstay, but there was no real home cooking island where a family was gathering around. It was kind of like the kitchen, a stool, and Nickelodeon playing on the television. And instead of home cooked food, it was takeout food that I learned how to order myself at a very young age. So it was takeout food, ice cream, jars of peanut butter, nothing wholesome or genuine, no attention being had. And I guess I realized later in life that it was also probably this emotional fixation and release, even though at the time it was more just boredom in my mind, or just something to do, an activity. And I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Family kept telling me, oh, it's our genes, and it's, genetically you're fooled, and, we all have that same metabolism. So I coughed it up to that, probably just as a justification or understanding, so no one really had to do anything about it. Until we went to my doctor's office when I was 8 years old, and she was very fit and active and wonderful, nurturing female pediatrician. Dr. Ruth Arbit, who I really feel saved my life, because she was the one who told my parents You've completely like let this girl go. She's too young. Her cholesterol levels and blood sugar levels are indicative of something you would see in a grown man. And we can't let her continue to go down this path. So she pulled out a brochure of a weight loss camp, or a fat camp, as people know it, called Camp Shane. And she goes, you're sending her to this weight loss camp this summer. And they have a 9-week program. And so she'll get shipped off for 2 months. And you'll see her on visiting day. And she'll come back slim. And I was 8, so it was kind of like a whirlwind. Even though I kind of remember the doctor's appointment and seeing this brochure on my lap, I didn't know what to think. And like the next thing I knew, I was there. I was in the first bunk, right, with just the few other 8-year-olds. The camp went from 8 to 18, and so I was in like that first G1, then I went to G2 and G3 and G4. And I kind of grew up going to the camp because I would lose weight. And that summer I lost weight. I came back. I went on the scale. I had my after pictures. My mom got me new clothes. I felt great. But then I reverted right back to that kitchen stool, all the old habits, and I gained the weight back. So I just went back to camp again. And that really was a lot of my childhood was revolved around this weight loss camp, even though I told my school friends it was a sports camp. And I would just, kind of say sayonara, come back half the size, and then spend the next couple of months gaining it back. And it was this horrible dependency, yo-yoing thing. I was not in touch at all with my body. I was kind of just a product of the environments I was in, or the diet I was following. Mm-hmm. And part of going to camp is that you're exercising, 9 hours a day. You go from morning stretch to aerobics to soccer, so they have you sweating. They give you this pre-portioned meal, and you just do as they say. And there was no real ownership that I took or that my family took during the school year. So that's why it would all come back on. Mm-hmm. And I kind of took to this whole thing as this passive experience that I would just, do like a hamster in a wheel that I think a lot of people do now seasonally with diets, I just go back on that thing, I'll go back on that thing, and then they have their 3 months of gaining back, and then they have their 5 months of whatever it is. So I kind of just did that hamster wheel where you're just in a fog and I'll start Monday thing, right, which was I'll start in the summer. And eventually I saw that I wasn't just gaining the weight back, I was gaining more. Because you can gain a lot more weight in 10 months than you can lose in 2. And I was just, 1 year I remember them saying, you're weighing in, let's say like 175, and they actually started keeping the cards. And I remember they said, you weighed out last year at like 152. So it was like I would see, wow, I gained so much weight this year. And then the following year, again, like I saw that I wasn't just gaining it back, I was gaining more than when I started. Mm-hmm. And I had one summer, I only went for half the summer because my father wanted me to go to this other camp with my school friends. And that destroyed me. Because then I didn't have a 30-pound loss in the summer. I only had a 9-pound loss that I gained in August or whatever it was. And that's where my weight gain went from like this to this. And that's when I actually found myself at 215 pounds in a size 20 when my friends were literally still in like the junior section. So that was when it really just kind of got out of hand, and I didn't really think I was doing anything differently. I still don't think I was doing anything too much differently, probably.
Than your friends? Like,
I was doing, but I just don't think I had that catch-up period. Like, I didn't have that 30-pound catch-up period. But the big difference that happened at that stage is I started being able to walk to school myself with an allowance, because I lived on 71st, and my school was on 75th. And in between was a corner store. And the corner store I would go to, and I would get a Snickers ice cream bar for breakfast. Oh, yeah. And even though I was in a puffer coat walking through snow, I would eat a Snickers ice cream bar for breakfast. And I'll never forget it. It's been like 20 years since I've had one, and I can close my eyes and like taste it. Like, right. I had them so often. And then we started having to sell things. I remember to raise money for a yearbook and our 8th grade trip and everything. And I remember we were selling bread rolls from a nearby bakery, and I would walk home eating the bread rolls. So it was like a bag of 6 rolls that you're supposed to share as of like a family, and I would eat like 3 of these like head-sized, doughy, delicious rolls on my way home.
Yeah.
And then I sold Oreos for yearbook, and so yes, they definitely contributed to why it started escalating. Was also that autonomy, which is why today so many teenagers are overweight.
Yeah.
Teenagers have the highest rates of obesity of all adolescents.
Just because, do you feel like it's because they are not watched, or because they just don't know how to eat? They're not taught how to eat?
It's wild to me. Now 1 in 5 teenagers in the U.S. is either overweight or obese. 1 in 5, so 20%. And that's just, they get an allowance, they get the autonomy, and there's so much less physical activity now. So I think maybe teenagers in the past was like, let's go play ball.
Now it's like, let's go to Sonic, let's go get some food.
They're just with more fast food and less physical activity. Kids still like to hang out, and it's just a meeting spot rather than, taking a walk or riding bikes or scootering or something maybe kids did in the past. So yeah, and I really got very, very large. And I remember that summer my parents were like kind of freaking out because, like I said, I pretty ballooned.
You're like 220, is that what you were?
I was 215. I remember my, it was also getting my period around that age. Like, I don't know what, but it definitely skyrocketed into a much more dangerous place. And that's, my parents were like, this is, like, do you see that this is pretty wild now? Like, I was bigger than they were. And they were like, and I was like, don't worry, I'm going to camp. Like, get off my back. I'll go back to camp this summer. I want to go. And they were like, it's not good enough. You need to start sooner. So in March, I'll never forget, even though my parents were divorced and I was walking home by myself, I'll never forget, they showed up to school together. And I was like, well, what is happening? And they were like, you're starting Weight Watchers today. Like, we're taking you to a meeting now. Like, we're not waiting till June.
Oh, wow.
And that was when I weighed in at that highest weight. And I remember I lost 5 pounds at Weight Watchers between March and June. So like in 4 months, I lost 5 pounds. But at least it helped me curb the gain, right? Like, just stop being on this trajectory
you
up.
Gaining at least, yeah.
So then I weighed in at camp at like 210. And that summer, I was kind of like, I recognized it as my rock bottom.
So do you ever feel like as we're talking, I'm like, that was like your community every summer. That's like your family.
Yeah, it was.
Do you ever feel like you maybe did it on purpose, like just so that you could go be with your family? Because if you lost the weight and you'd taken care of it, you wouldn't have been able to go to camp every summer.
Definitely. And my dad did not like me going to the camp every summer because he wanted me to go to Jewish camps with the other Jewish kids. Like, it really bothered him that I was going. So that is definitely part of it. But I think I did it, not so I could go to camp, but I think I did it because I knew I was going to camp. Like, I had that fallback. Uh-huh. So it was kind of like when people say, oh, I had one cookie, now I might as well go bonkers. It's like they kind of say that to themselves to give them permission to go off the wall. Right. I think I did it as like a sense of permission. Like, I'm going to camp this summer, I can eat whatever I want. Right. But I wasn't enjoying it. I wasn't tasting it. It was like such a fog of because I'm a volume eater. So as someone who likes to eat a lot, it just wasn't working that what I was eating a lot of was such unfulfilling, high caloric, high sugar foods. I mean, it was totally, that's why I was gaining just so much weight.
So much more.
I was,
because teenagers, that's a very normal food, but you were gaining exponentially more than other kids and stuff like that.
You gain some weight, definitely, and you develop a belly as a kid if you love fries and you'll eat them often. Yeah. But if you, just eat a small fries and you're done and you're picky about everything, it's, it's a small belly. But for me, a small fries would never do it. I needed many, I was really, really a volume eater, and that's a very hard place to be. If you're a volume eater and you're eating really hard foods, you can gain a lot in a short time, especially because I didn't have the genes or any genetic or family thing helping me along the way. So, and then because I was so big, I didn't like to exercise or do sports because I was so embarrassed that if I were on the basketball team, everyone on the stands would be, snickering about my weight, jumping and bouncing on the court. Whether or not that's the truth, I think a lot of times when I work with an overweight client, you kind of you go under this assumption that everyone's talking about you or looking at you. And the more I've lost weight and gotten more confident in myself and become friends with people who don't have weight struggles, the more I realize no one really is looking at you at all. It's just a horrible, vicious thing that you get entrapped in, where you add other people's make-believe comments to add to your insecurity. So I definitely had that working against me too. Anyway, so I remember in camp that summer, I was about 13, and I was doing mountain climbers or something on the same field that I've been exercising in every summer for like 5, 6, 7 years prior. And I had this almost sense of deja vu of seeing the hamster wheel of this yo-yo dieting from an outside perspective. And when I was being able to just look at it with this flashback of on and off and on and off, I remember looking at my weight bouncing and being like, enough. Like, I just had this moment of, you're done. My hamster wheel ends here.
Right.
I'm over this. I'm too old. Like, even though I was only 13, I'd been yo-yo dieting for years.
You're 8.
Right. And so I felt like, you're too old for this. Like, you got to be done with this. This is like enough already. Especially because I saw that camp years were dwindling. You can't be in summer camp when you're 20, you know? And I was getting closer to that than where I started. So I was like, I have to get over this. And I started convincing myself that I didn't want these friends to necessarily be my friends I'm with all the time. I really do like my school friends, and it is kind of disturbing that they're all together right now and I'm not. And I started just realizing all these excuses and all this tribulation, all these issues none of it is helping me. And I just, it takes getting to that level of maturity, I think, to actually be able to slap yourself across the face and be like, wake up, enough, let's do this. So I did. And then I realized, I'm like, so you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to maximize my weight loss this summer. For elective and, the free periods, I'm not going to do arts and crafts because I can. I'm going to do soccer, Taekwondo, aerobics, and make the most of this because I don't want to come back.
Right.
And so I did. And while I was there, when I got back, I realized, how can I keep this ongoing? And that's when I started really studying what was working in the summer that wasn't working during the school year. I started really finding friends as I kind of went into high school, finding friends who seemed fit, healthy, and at ease, and wanting to understand why they were not having this as an issue. I wanted sleepovers at their families and study their moms and their home and their habits and why their family didn't struggle with weight like we did. And in kind of this studying, I started to devise a system that was working for me as well. And then I became obsessed with becoming a registered dietitian, which I started even earlier because I loved the dietitians at camp. And I started even studying nutrition books in high school. I became fascinated with this professor, Dr. Lisa Young at NYU, and I started stalking her and asking her if I could sit in on her NYU courses and interning for her even as a high school student. So I started becoming really obsessed with what I can discover. Unfortunately, her method of nutrition, she's called the portion teller. Her book is all about smaller portions. Never worked for me because I'm a big portion person, but I still just enjoyed surrounding myself in nutrition. And I started really losing weight on my own for the first time. Through high school, I lost maybe 40 pounds or so, and then went to college to study nutrition dietetics, got my bachelor's of science degree, and then went on to get my master's degree, started teaching at UCLA. My system with my new Evolve system, losing even more weight based on my learning and practices. And at UCLA, they basically gave me a whole class to teach on weight loss, a 12-week seminar. And I had, right now I was going off of research and textbooks and anecdotal research. I pulled in research projects along with my own personal, about 75-pound weight loss at that point, and years taking nutrition classes in camp from dietitians. So I had a good amount to work with. But at this point, it was really in practice where I kind of dove deeper into the mindset and understanding the order in which to tackle weight loss, right? Because it's not that you do one thing one day and you see this massive change. It's a collection of habits that you build. And it was in working with this 100 UCLA employees that I kind of figured out what's working, what's resonating, what's not, and refined the practice because I ended up teaching it for 10 semesters.
Oh, wow.
And in addition to teaching it 10 semesters, I got to work with each person one-on-one. Okay. So I had a woman in menopause, and at that point I was much younger. So when I started, so I had a woman in menopause telling me, well, it's great that you told me X, Y, and Z, but it's not working for me. And then I had someone who couldn't work out, and then I had someone who, works in a kitchen and has to pick at his food, and then I had a woman who's Dominican and her family's telling her that she can't lose her butt and she has to stop losing weight, and how do you deal with that peer pressure and the family pushing you? And then I had to deal with the self-sabotager, or the person who loves a lot of alcohol, or the person who's a speech tube, the woman going through a divorce, and person with the desk job, and one who has an injury, and all of this, right? Everyone's like personal, emotional, environmental struggles. And that's when I, through hundreds of people at UCLA, as well as starting my private practice, as well as meeting with each person one-on-one, and continuing to get to my last 25 pounds off through having my kids, I really felt like I refined the system, like what works. Like it got me down 100 pounds and keeping it off through kids, and now I had real evidence of like hundreds of people who lost weight and kept it off at UCLA and in my private practice. And that's when I met with Beachbody and I said, I have a really good thing going here. I just need help delivering it to more people.
More people, yeah.
Because now it's not fair that more people don't have it. And fast forward like over 3 years now, and like over 240,000 people have the program and are seeing success with it.
240,000 people. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And can you imagine how you would never have been able to reach that many people if not for this, like being able to know Beachbody, and because that's in 240,000 homes, which then those maybe are moms who are going to teach that to their kids, and that is like, whoa. So
right.
powerful.
Now I feel like there must be a million lives touched by this, because every one person who does the program successfully, even just there's a sense of positivity that I hope sheds onto other people. So yeah, and hopefully just growing and growing and growing. Yeah, no, I definitely couldn't have been able to spread this. Definitely not the same way without Beachbody. And also, at that point, I was still in close contact with every person it was working on. So even though someone was in the back row, never spoke to me, decided never to take on that private session opportunity, could still benefit, he was still in the same classroom, right? He was still able to talk to other people doing it. So when I met Beachbody, I was hoping and praying it would be able to scale, but I was still skeptical that it would be able to, because I never really had evidence or proof that it could work without me present. Luckily, Beachbody is really the best at making you feel like there's a personal trainer in your living room.
Right.
And that you don't need someone next to you adjusting you. You don't need someone telling you a modifier, knowing your body. Like, they really have become, they're experts at this at home way before other people were doing it, way before. I mean, I feel like Beachbody is so ahead of its time.
Right.
Now like Peloton is stepping up, and there are all these people doing at-home workouts, but Beachbody started that.
Yeah, like we've been doing that forever.
Even superfoods.
I was just about to say superfoods. Like
superfoods and mushrooms.
When Shakeology came out, and like I didn't even know if that wasn't even a word like that you used, and now it's like this word everyone uses. And back then it wasn't even a word. I was like
100%.
Yeah, so they're totally.
And adaptogens, and reishi and astragalus and ashwagandha, and I mean, even when I met Beachbody 4 years ago, no one was talking about it, and now it's like everyone's having it in their coffee, and they're definitely on the forefront, and they're effective. They've been so effective at this, so they've been amazing, and they also took my system at the time and really helped me hone it. Even better, even deeper, because we've had, test groups where it's not just me studying the test group and making the revisions, but it's, experts at, making effective, long-lasting change for people from abroad, really helping me look in and see what needs to be highlighted and so forth.
I think Beachbody was really surprised that it was so successful. I don't know if they've said that to you, but I think they were like, whoa. Like, this is not just like another nutrition program. Like, this is something bigger. And I think there's a lot of reasons. I think it's because you have dealt with it before. So you understand people. And when you come from obesity, or I come from a long line of obesity, my dad was 350 pounds most of my life. My grandmother was 300 pounds, like type 2 diabetes, like countless, detriments because of that, high cholesterol, high blood pressure, all these things that they dealt with. And so people don't understand that there's like some emotional, and I think that's when you shared the program for the first time, I was like, oh, I wish my dad had this.
Yeah.
Because it was emotional. Like, it was emotional. Eating was emotional. And I don't think people realize, like, well, just do this and you're going to be fine. Like, follow this plan. I'm like, it's not that easy. Like, it's just not.
It's so not easy. It's so complicated.
It's so hard, and there's so much involved in it. Will you share the story about the emotional eating? About the kind of the time.
My mother?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like I shared that with your test group, and then I didn't share it again with another one.
Yeah.
So, listen, I can speak to emotional eating for sure. And I always say, I've kind of figured out, even recently, just working on private clients here in my office, I've realized the choice we make to eat food comes from a 3-pillar process. Everyone thinks it's all nutrition. Nutrition, like eat X, don't eat Y, eat this many macros, eat this many calories, cut out these foods, eat these foods. It's all about nutrition. And there's literally like thousands of weight loss books written that are just like food. All they do is talk about the food. And food is one aspect. If you're feeling extra hungry one day, if you didn't get enough sleep, like it can increase your hunger hormones. If you didn't, eat enough filling foods, it, can make you overeat later on. Like, there's a nutrition piece, and choosing the right foods is smart, but there's also a huge emotion piece and an environment piece, right? You're going to eat the cupcake in front of you because insight in stomach. But then there's also that emotions that come into play of like, one can't be so bad, I deserve it. I'm having a really hard day. This might make it better. Everyone else is having it. I don't want to miss out, right? Like FOMO eating. I made a list of like 50 different terms I created for emotional eating. I still suffer with what I call procrastinating, where I don't want to do something, so I procrastinate. Like, I eat because I'm like, oh, I have to fuel up before I get to it, but I'm just procrastinating. So there's so many different emotions that play into it, and the bottom line is emotional eating is never okay. Like, it doesn't ever solve the true emotion that you're dealing with, right? When you're feeling stressed and so you eat or deserve ice cream, it doesn't take away the stress. It just, like, now you have another stress because now you have more pounds to lose, right? And now you don't fit in your clothes, and that's more stressful. And now you're making a mess out of your closet, and now it's not fun to go out. And like, now you're avoiding seeing that person because you don't want them to see you that you're up weight. Now you're cropping yourself out of pictures, and like, there's so many more issues that happen from it. But it's really hard to see that sense of logic when you're in the funk of emotional eating. And I shared this example, I remember with your test group, of my mother passed away. Actually, like, right after I met Beachbody. So it's like we were already like really kicking off the test groups, and crazy time, a very raw time. And that first test group like went through a lot with me. Like, they really helped me because we were talking so often and bringing up emotional eating, and it was probably keeping me nice and afloat at the same time. But I was telling them that when my mother passed away, Jews have something called Shiva, and Shiva is this period right after someone close to you dies, and it has to be an immediate relative. You sit for 7 days on low chairs, and people visit you, and you talk about the person who passed away. So it's a 7-day period, very emotional, and it's meant to be this healing time, but it's highly revolves around food. Jews have this concept where it's inappropriate to bring flowers when someone passes away, so there are no big wreaths or anything like that. But food is more than welcome.
Okay.
So it's literally the epitome of emotional eating. There's a major family loss, and everyone brings you food as a form of comfort.
Right, that's your, comfort. Yeah.
And thankfully, I've had a lot of experience working with private clients and hearing firsthand, my parent passed away, I ended up gaining a lot of weight in Shiva, which then kind of snowballed me into gaining 40 pounds the year after my father passed away and so forth. Like, I've heard that story so many times. So when my mother passed away, you know, it of course dawned on me of like, okay, and I was in a good place with my emotional eating. I was down 100 pounds. I was counseling it. I was, you know, starting to really build the 2B Mindset program. You know, thankfully, emotional eating wasn't even my instant reaction, which is unbelievable considering that it has been for so many years. But then in sitting Shiva, people were bringing me so many cakes and cookies, and people started being actually obnoxious to the point of, oh, come on, it's your Shiva. You have to eat the chocolate. Like, come on. Like, your mother just passed away. Like, why are you even thinking about it? Like, eat the donuts or whatever. And they don't have the 2B mindset. They don't understand that that's not a healing system. But when you're in this horribly distraught place, you start to listen to people and you're not feeling good. And so when people are telling you that this is an antidote to make you feel better, you listen despite your education and your better sense of thinking. So I started that day, I just started eating chocolate and eating whatever people were telling me to eat. And thankfully, I believe in the scale. And the scale is one of the aspects of the 2B Mindset program that really help you lose weight and keep it off, and help me start to realize what was working for me. And I was still going on the scale during Shiva. You're not supposed to wear makeup. You're not supposed to feel so beautiful or to look in the mirror even. But I was going on the scale, and I saw, you know, after 2 days of sitting Shiva after my mom passing, I was gaining weight. And it really helped me be like, what are you doing? Like, your mom wouldn't even want this. And nothing is changing. Like, you're in this horrible situation and now you're just adding weight to the puzzle. Stop. And it was in that one shocking moment that I came up with this line that has continued to help me, and I hope others, which is, you need emotional healing. You don't need emotional eating. You need emotional healing. Like, you are suffering and you need healing. Right. But this is not healing you. And you know, I'm constantly reconnected with this emotional eating self. But I heard a great quote this morning from my yoga instructor. So my yoga instructor was a substitute teacher today, and we were doing all these like really topsy-turvy, annoying poses. And she was like, oh, I know what you're thinking. It had to be a substitute teacher. And why is she making me do all these poses that I'm not used to? And she goes, because if you're not, I love this. I feel like I have to repeat it twice. You have to really let it soak in. If you're not constantly working on how not to fall, then you're not learning. So you always have to be focusing on how not to fall. You always have to be working on and working your brain and balance on how not to fall. Uh-huh. And if you stop doing that, then you stop learning and growing. Right. You always have to force yourself to be on that verge of trouble. And so when people tell me, they come into my office and they say, I'm really bad, I'm in a bad place, I feel terrible, I always get giddy, because that's a place that I could really help and work on from.
I will never forget, like, you saying that, and you're like, that food is not going to bring back my mom.
Yeah.
It wasn't going to bring back your mom, and I just, I cried every time. It wasn't going to bring her back, right? So that wasn't going to solve anything. And so it was just going to make it worse. And so, like, I hear that all the time. Emotional eating is never okay. Emotional eating is never okay. And I tell myself that, you know, and sometimes I win, sometimes I don't.
Yeah, sometimes you're telling it to yourself while you're eating.
While you're eating.
But you know what? It's still helping you.
It is. And I think, you know, whether the scale has grown or doesn't, like, I think just having that sense has helped me so much, because, you know, I don't feel like I get in that spot as often, because, you know, I've been dealing with that and helping that. In fact, so in our house, we've been doing 2B Mindset, and my son didn't do it because he was in football, and so you're supposed to gain when you're in football. And so, I mean, you know, we've been doing Veggies Most for 2 years, you know, over 2 years, and so in our house, and so he would never try the things, you know, he was like, yeah, no, I'm not gonna eat that. And so he wanted to lose weight after football season because he wants to be fit for when he goes to college. And so we kind of worked on a couple of things. I didn't really push it all on him. And then finally I was like, hey, why don't we just try to do Veggies Most at dinner? Let's just tweak some things.
Get up those veggies. They're your friends.
Let's just tweak a couple things. And and he was weighing himself, and I was like, okay, if you weigh yourself every day, I'm totally okay with that, but you have to write it down. And he's like, oh, I know, Mom, write it down. And I was like, no, because you need to know how your body is responding. And so we have all these conversations, these 2-week conversations in our house. And the first week that he just tweaked the veggies most at dinner,
doing like the core principles.
The core principles, drinking, all the 2 bunnies, doing the 2 bunnies. He lost 7 pounds in that first week.
Good for him.
He is down, he's down like 27 pounds.
Good for him.
27 pounds.
It's never too late to get it together.
32 pounds. I think it was not 40 yet. It's 32 pounds. He's down 32 pounds.
It's so manageable.
Yeah.
It's so easy. I mean, life just gets so much busier.
Yeah.
So
I'm excited because he's going to
so
go to college
in
the fall, and so he's having those like awesome, that's been so cool to kind of see him and he's cooking, he cooks for himself. He goes and he is making his stuff and making his veggies, and we're talking about it. And
you're such a good mom. That's my number one. My kid, my oldest is 5, but I always say this just from working with so many teens and moms, that I would never let my kid go to college until they can make themselves at least 3 healthy dishes.
Oh yeah.
They can figure out how to make themselves a stir fry. They can make themselves some sort of omelet. They can make that. You know what I mean? You need to be able to make yourself cauliflower rice risotto. You have to figure out how to make yourself a couple of go-to filling healthy dishes that are comforting, remind you of home, something you can maybe even eat after the bar, but it's not going to derail your health, your fitness, your focus. Oh my gosh, I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah,
now he can go. Once he passed that test.
But but I love that he's taking that ownership, and we're kind of working through that too, and talking about the emotional side of that, and because that's really why I became a Beachbody coach. I was like, I have to change that emotional eating, that problem with me. I can't continue on, and so it's really cool to see the fruits of that. And it's been a process, right? So
it's always a process.
My kids still love, they all love junk food and all that, but we're constantly tweaking and growing and how we do that. And I see your kids eating veggies on your stories, and I'm like, never. Do you know that book?
They're still hard though.
Deceptively Delicious, that book that came out. Do you remember that? Okay, so it's this cookbook where she put veggies in
snuck it in brownies
in their food.
I don't do that.
My kids totally could pick it out because they were maybe 1st and 3rd grade when I started that. They're like, ew, there's something in this. It's not right. I'm like, it's called a veggie. And they did not love that. So now they're starting to eat veggies, and it's very normal for us to have cucumber and carrots out.
That is the key. That's the word. I think that for me that is such a trigger word. Normal.
Yes.
Normal is a trigger word because my whole childhood I was told I'm not normal, and I always was in search of what does a normal family look like? What does normal eating look like? What does a normal body look like? I just wanted to feel normal, and the key is that everyone has to understand that eating carrots and cucumbers with hummus as what's on the table around is normal. That is what I discovered on my hunt to figure out what are healthy families doing. They were exercising because it was normal. The mom would go on a run after work to relieve stress because it was normal. I'm like, oh, where's your mom going? Oh, on a run. Oh, really? Her personal trainer isn't here because she's on this January challenge? No, this is normal. And then for dessert, the mom would just bring out cut up fruit. It wasn't okay, now we have to go get ice cream. It was that was normal. And I think that is a very important term to justify because that people use that of I can't bring baby carrots to a movie. That's not normal. But is eating M&Ms when you're not even paying attention? Because that's not normal either.
Right.
And I love that word normal because I think people have to always evolve their mind onto how they define that word. Because a lot of people are ugh, eating veggies isn't normal. No, not eating veggies is actually not natural.
Right. And it's become more normal in our family.
I love that.
And so we just have them out, and that's helped, I think, them a lot. So they'll grab that before, that will be out on the counter while cooking dinner, and they're hungry and stuff, and they'll grab that.
That's amazing.
That's so different for our family. That's something that we've started. So
such a wonderful thing, though, because no matter what, kids will always remember, even if they gain weight, even if in college they go straight to fast food and potato chips and stuff like that, they'll always remember what was normal in their home was that, and they'll come back to it. So you're setting an amazing example.
Well, we also eat that. So we're
It's
getting
a
there.
blend.
We're getting there. We're definitely
blend.
getting there. But
Us too.
it's
I show my kids eating the veggies. I don't show everything else. There's plenty of other things. I'll take you into my kitchen.
But they're so cute, and it's great because you're introducing that early, and I think. We didn't do a really great job of that. Like Chick-fil-A was where we went most
But
of
they
the
have
time.
grilled nuggets.
They do now, but not back then. My kids are older, so that's their favorite. But okay, so I always ask a few questions at the end of my podcast. So first, what is your favorite parenting advice? I know your kids are littler, but what is your favorite parenting advice?
Kids need a happy mom, not a perfect mom.
Okay.
Kids don't need a perfect mom, they need a happy mom. That gets me through a lot. That gets me, I sometimes, if my kids don't get up early enough, sometimes I leave to work out before I see them. And, they wake up to daddy there and mommy, they know mommy's working out. A perfect mom would be there, like super excited to put their socks and sneakers on, and I'm okay, like getting back and like everything's wrapped up. Like I make their lunch the night before. Okay, and we, contact and have great mommy time in the car on the way to drop off without me needing to be the one helping to get dressed, because my husband and I switch off when we need to. So, when mommy's happier and I come after I've had my workout, I'm a happier mom. The kids are happier kids. It's not about that. So that is one of my best advice. I speak to women and mothers all the time. They're like, I ate this huge plate of cookies. Why'd you have a huge plate of cookies? Because I get it for my kids, or we were baking them. I'm like, how many cookies did your kid have? Oh, they just had one and then they went to sleep. But then you ate the whole plate. You don't need to be Martha Stewart to be a good mom. If making cookies gets you eating a plate of cookies, you don't need to be the mom who bakes cookies.
Right.
You don't need to be that perfect mom in your mind who bakes cookies. You could be a perfect mom because she's confident and comfortable in building Legos with their kids. So a happy mom is happy kids. Kids don't need a perfect mom. They need a happy mom. You have to do what makes you happy and confident and secure in your body, because it's not what you say, it's what you do that the kids really take on.
That's so true. Okay. Do you have any parenting do-overs?
Oh gosh. Parenting do-overs. Oh,
You're still they're so little.
No.
You probably don't even have one yet.
I do though. I feel like when we had our daughter, Olivia, I love her, she's the best, but when we had her, my husband and I were like obsessed with her, and I think we like stared at her and we clapped every time she smiled, and I think we went too far with it, and now we have to kind of work our way back because she loves so much attention, so uncomfortable by not having all eyes on her, doesn't like when we even look at her son. So I see my friends, like their kids are so self-sufficient and independent, and I asked one of my friends, I'm like, you have so many kids, why are they not on you right now? And mine are like entrapping me, like, and she said, yeah, I just don't pay a lot of attention to them. And I was like, oh, okay, I should have tried that, because her kids are like super independent, really cool and collected, and mine are needy.
Well, mine were horrible when they were little, so if that makes you feel better, and now they're great kids, but, sometimes it just works out. So yeah. I'm sure she'll be fine. Maybe she'll be like some awesome movie star, whatever, to get that attention. Yeah. So what is your favorite beverage? Is this something I always ask, and I know your answer?
Well, I love water first. Always water first. First thing
I saw your water bottle. It's awesome.
It's a nice 50 ouncer. The To Be Mindset is so much easier because there's a straw in it.
But I kind of like, so
I do think I drink more. I drink water faster out of the To Be Mindset bottle because it has a straw.
Because I feel like I drink better out of like those spouts than I do the straw. I love
this. I'm thirsty. Like I'm thirsty, but I have to send a text message, and you can't drink this. But To Be Mindset water bottle, I'm like drinking water while sending emails. Like
yeah, so it does it both. We were at Sandy's yesterday, and she had the one that was really cool. It had like fruit in the middle, and like was an infuser, and I was like, ooh, we have to get that one. And it was big too, but I don't think it was that big. But okay, I'm always looking for good water bottles.
Water's really great first thing in the morning, right after a workout. Your body just takes in water really great. But I'm obsessed with my coffee. I love coffee, and I really like it sweet. Like I definitely stevia it up. So I like my coffee in the morning, and then I also, one of my clients grows lemons that look like oranges, right? These fat, soft lemons, and they're so juicy. And I've been making lemonades in the afternoon. Like, I don't know what she comes with sacks of them. I don't know what I'm gonna do without them. Like, I need to stalk her because I just squeeze a lemon on one of these things. I put so much of this lemon juice in, and then I add a little stevia and ice, and I've been making these amazing lemonades. I have a lot of good beverages. I like detox tea.
Oh.
Yogi detox tea.
You drink those at night?
I drink that at night.
Yeah.
I do love that. I like sleepy time teas. I like cinnamon teas.
So
I love beverages.
Okay. Yeah, you're big.
It's a great question.
Yeah,
I could have a lot of fun with it. Yeah.
And then, okay, so what is your favorite? What is your favorite like snack right now or healthy meal? What are you kind of into?
I've been making these brownie batter Shakeologies. I've been kind of obsessed with.
You said that the other day. So tell me how to make those.
Okay, so there is an all natural cake batter extract. I didn't get it because it was so expensive, so I have a very artificial one. The color is like neon, but you literally are using half a teaspoon. But this cake batter extract in Shakeology, it takes it to all new heights. I mean, it tastes like you're eating brownie batter. So I've become really obsessed with this cake batter extract.
So it'd be the same if you put almond extract, or is it similar?
Yeah, almond extract makes it taste like a macaroon or something.
Okay, but if you put cake batter
this cake batter extract in my Shakeology, and it makes me crave Shakeology like I never had it before.
I'm probably gonna have to go get that.
Yeah, like Shakeology, I used to have every morning, and I love it, but now I crave it. Like sometimes I crave it in the afternoon. Like if I miss it in the morning, like I need to have it in the afternoon.
Yeah.
I used to not be like that.
Yeah.
New heights, this cake batter extract. I just love it. And I like to put frozen cauliflower rice in my Shakeology. Like I get very annoyed when I don't have frozen
you put
cauliflower.
the Shakeology, the
Chocolate Shakeology. I usually use water, frozen cauliflower rice, and ice. But the frozen cauliflower rice just literally makes it. I think it holds the iciness longer. It makes it creamier, and you get in the more fiber. It keeps me fuller longer, and I make it very thick and eat it like an ice cream.
Okay.
So the cauliflower rice it makes it thicker. When yesterday I didn't have cauliflower rice, and it like melted faster. It felt like I was drinking like putting liquid on a spoon, not like putting ice cream on a spoon.
Okay, those are awesome. Okay, what are you into right now? What's something fun you're into right now?
Okay, so
if you have time. I mean,
I go into so many. I'm obsessed with veggies, but I go into like real waves and stages. And so 2-3 weeks ago, I think cauliflower rice like in my shake, in my bowl. Like I had bags and bags of cauliflower rice the whole week. And then this week, I'm in this Brussels sprout in the air fryer like mania. I think I probably had 100 Brussels sprouts this week. Like if you take whole Brussels sprouts and you have them, you toss them with a little balsamic vinegar and honey, and spray them in the air fryer. It tastes like kettle corn. So I just I eat a batch while I am cooking the other batch, and I've been going on batches of that, and then shaved Brussels sprouts.
I love shaved Brussels sprouts.
Shaved Brussels sprouts in a saute pan with olive oil spray, everything but the bagel seasoning. It tastes like noodly, and so this week it's like Brussels sprout mania. I go into turnip fry stages, I go in eggplant stages, but yeah, I'm in this real Brussels sprout air fryer situation.
Okay, I need to go to air fryer too. Okay, cake batter, air fryer. Okay.
Yeah, those are, you know what, cake batter extract and air fryers will change your whole life.
Okay, those are good things. What workout are you into? Yoga, or are you doing?
I'm doing this very geriatric yoga class now. I spent January really doing a lot of kickboxing, so it's probably very similar to what Joel's doing for 10 rounds. The people Joel has in the 10 rounds crew, that's going to be on screen with him, are the instructors at the class I was taking. So it's like real kickboxing, lots of squats. My body changed drastically. My butt grew like 20% in that month. I couldn't believe it. My arms grew. I got indentations in I was like a lot of cardio and high music and trendy, sexy studio and all this stuff. And I just did the polar opposite this month. I'm like by far the youngest one in every yoga class. The average age I'd say is about 60. Very slow pace, no music, no mirrors, bright lights. I don't know. It's very soulful and relaxing. I miss a fiery cardio burst though. I think I need to alternate it with like Morning Meltdown 100 or something.
Yeah. But you were just needing that kind of that calm. Is that what you were kind of needing?
Yeah. Well,
just listening to your body and.
Yeah, and when if I go into any period of like intense muscle building, like where I'm doing lots of squats and lots of push-ups and burpees and things like that. If I then do a month of just a lot of yoga, I get a really nice figure. Like I tend to just get really longer and leaner because the muscle helps rev up that metabolism. And then I usually kind of like lose 2 pounds of muscle, but then like end up with this physique I get into. And my butt got so big that literally like my pants were fit. Like even though my scale was staying the same, my body shape was very different.
So your pants didn't fit.
Yeah, they literally like weren't fitting the same, but my waist was fine. It was just weird. So I feel like I need to do the yoga to reset. But even when I do yoga, I like it to be a more fiery yoga, like fast paced vinyasas and stuff like that. So this studio, it's too slow for me.
Too slow.
It's great for like retirement. Like like this woman talks about preventing falling, preventing hip fractures.
So you're like, oh, okay.
I need to bring it down a notch.
Yeah. So good. Okay, I think those are all my questions.
Thank you.
You're so sweet.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you for how much your program has blessed me, my family, my customers.
Oh, good.
And I'm just so excited about where it's going to
And now with the Mindset membership, it's even more exciting. So ongoing.
More recipes. We have more of you. We have, and I think that is what was so huge about being in the test group is we had you, and that's why the monthly membership is so awesome because they get you and they get you coming in there and sharing your stories and sharing because you created it.
And we always get lost in a funk.
Yeah.
Like everyone gets sucked into a funk now and then. Every week, every month, so you really need the ongoing support. And I can't just give that to my private clients. I have to be able to give that to everyone who needs it.
That's awesome. Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.